Klarna, please. So we talked quickly about it. Sebastian came to NOAH already, I think, like 5 years ago for the first time, and we keep in touch for a long time, which is great. And you bought a business in Germany, I think, Sofortüberweisung, which means like immediate money wire.
Yep.
But give us a quick background on Klarna.
Sure. So Klarna is founded in Stockholm in Sweden. We've existed for about 15 years. And we're effectively a payments company, although we actually think of ourselves more as a customer experience solution. So we're operating across 14 markets. Germany is actually our largest market, but the US and the UK are actually our fastest growing markets. So we've introduced into the UK and the US our pay later solution. Which is creating real traction in terms of retailer demand and also consumer demand for an alternative way to pay. And the way in which we really think about that solution is that it's enabling the retailer to offer alternative payments for consumers. And really separates the buying experience from the paying experience. So what we see that doing is it effectively reduces friction in the whole funnel, the checkout funnel, and ultimately drives consumers to spend more with the retailer, and also, because of the experience, return and transact on a more frequent basis as well.
In the UK market, you entered, obviously you're running the UK market. It's a very competitive market, right? And changing your payment providers, like changing your hosting company, unless you really have a strong reason to do so, you usually don't touch. How did you break into the UK market so successfully?
Yeah, so what we identified in the UK is that really, if you think about it, the landscape around payments hasn't really changed a huge amount over the last 10 or 20 years.
I bet PayPal would come down the share price, but it's still up there with the high fees. I was told the reason they have such a high fees is because they accept every transaction and they have to price it in. Palantir came out
so absolutely. So, but beyond PayPal and cards, there's really not that much consumer choice. So we identified that there was an opportunity to present an alternative solution and a different way to pay. And over the last 2 years, we've seen, amazing traction, and we now have over 5 million users who have used Klarna in the UK, over 4,000 retailers who are offering our services. So we started in fashion as a category because of the frequency of transaction and providing shoppers the ability to try before you buy. But we're now extending into travels. We've recently launched with Expedia, into homewares, and offering convenience of splitting the cost of transactions over 3 installments. So, and we've also taken a very different approach.
The installment payments was the original starting point, right?
Right. So, but it was long-term installments, so it's credit, regulated credit. Whereas what we're focusing on.
Who provides that financing? Is that a third party?
No. So we're a regulated bank. So we're underwriting.
You are underwriting.
Absolutely.
That's where the margin is. Then.
That's right. So, but yeah. So what's really interesting is the change in consumer preference as well. So if you think about younger consumers, they're somewhat averse to credit and the typical forms of credit. And a lot of consumers now have, we've seen the rise of neobanks like Monzo and Starling, etc. So those consumers are used to having debit accounts, and so actually getting access to paying via installments is something that they don't naturally have. They don't typically have credit cards. So our pay later solution allows consumers to split out the cost of a transaction over 3 or 4 installments in the US. And the way in which we flip that on its head is that the consumer is not actually paying any interest or fees for those transactions. So it's more of an experience and a convenience play. And
it's the cost of business for whom? For the retailer?
For the retailer. And so that's how we've kind of flipped it on its head. And what the retailer then sees is that Klarna is also a channel for directing consumers to their business as well. So,
but you don't have a wallet like Skrill or Wirecard has.
No, we don't. So
do you believe in that? Do you believe you have to have a wallet? I mean, how many wallets you want? No?
Exactly. So we believe in taking friction out of the whole process. So there's no kind of concept of an account with Klarna. So we really remove the need for logins, or it's purely based on your email address and zip code or postcode. That's how we identify you.
I'm always amazed how often I have to re-enter my credit card details today, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's strange. No, it should
Yeah,
really
and
save
it's another
the cards.
barrier. It's another barrier to a customer actually checking out. Is they have to go and find their credit card, or So we're really focused on how we can take that friction out of the buying process and provide a positive experience for the customer, so that ultimately they go back and shop at that retailer again.
And the installment business is very similar to being a credit card company, right? You're financing short term. No, you said long term.
Well,
how long is it? Like 12 months? Or?
So the installment product that's really taking off at the moment is 3 installments in the UK. So 30. So 1 installment when you actually check out, and then 30 days later and 60 days later. And in the US, it's 4 installments every fortnight. So syncs in with when the consumer gets their paycheck.
Because these are models we know from Turkey or from many emerging
Brazil,
markets.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But now they are also being adopted in our regions.
In more traditional markets as well. And that's, we've, similar to our pay later solution at 30 days, that's an open invoice in Germany. Not prevalent in the UK. So we've kind of represented and packaged that up to the UK consumer and allowing them to try before you buy. So, real change in terms of how it's presented.
Try before you buy.
Right, yeah.
Because they don't charge you before.
So the consumer gets their goods. We don't take any money from the consumer until 30 days later. So the benefit for the customer is they get their product, they make sure that it's what they want, and they're happy with the size.
Do the merchants advertise that?
Absolutely,
nice
yeah.
So that's differentiation right here.
Correct, yeah.
Let's talk about the retail landscape. When we started NOAH 11 years ago here in London.
It's been a bit of a change.
Yeah, I mean, we now have like education company, healthcare companies, Fintech, mobility, which we weren't having then, but we had lots of e-commerce companies.
Yeah.
And the retail market has consolidated quite a bit. And I think to set up a new e-commerce business today, to build a brand is almost impossible. You have to pay on Google so much to offset your unknown ranking there.
Yep.
And then the margins are very narrow. What's your view on the retail sector? How will it look like in 10, 20 years? Is it completely run by the platforms? Do we still have offline retail? What do you think?
I think that's, I'm not sure about 10 or 20 years, but I think if you look at what's happening today, a lot of physical retailers are looking to take the online experience to their physical retail environment. So, we've seen in the UK and other markets that, a lot of retailers are closing down their physical retail and really focusing on how they take that digital experience into the physical retail store. So we've recently launched with H&M and a number of other UK retailers where they're actually taking the mobile experience that they offer on their digital environment into the physical retail store.
Apple does it quite nice. They tell
do.
you what you have bought before, and they, I think, bill you through the email, and sometimes it works really, really nice. This integrated approach.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment is that the physical retailers are looking for how they differentiate themselves with the digital experience.
That means that the typical mums and pub stores are probably not going to make it in the digital age.
So I think that's also interesting because our solution, any retailer can offer it in their store because it's based on the customer's mobile phone, and we all carry around mobile phones, so they can offer a digital experience in terms of checking out on the actual customer's mobile phone.
I think you're one of the last top 10 largest independent internet companies in Europe. I think you have some great investors, General Atlantic, Permira. How much money has the company raised, roughly, I think?
So I think our latest round was 460 million.
And you're like a multi-billion unicorn, of course. Well, I mean, to the extent you like to, but what is the future for you? I mean, are you open for more acquisitions? We have many interesting companies here.
So you mentioned earlier that we've scaled through acquisition in Germany, and we've done acquisitions in the UK as well. And I think it's definitely of interest to us as to how we can add in other M&A acquisitions through to allow our scale in new markets as well. So we're definitely looking at how we can add to the business to grow.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Say hi to Sebastian.
I will do.
Thank you.